The day my mother forgot my name. I thought she was getting sick. But what I discovered a week later made me realize something much worse. My name is Daniel, and I grew up believing my family was normal. Not perfect, but normal enough. We had dinners together. We celebrated birthdays. We argued sometimes, but nothing unusual. At least that's what I believed for most of my life. Until the day my mother looked at me and didn't recognize who I was. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I had stopped by my parents' house unannounced. My father opened the door, surprised to see me, but he smiled and let me in. My mother was sitting in the living room, watching TV. When I walked in, she turned toward me, and for a moment everything seemed fine. Then she frowned slightly. "Can I help you?" she asked. I laughed. "Mom, it's me." She tilted her head. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" The room went silent. My father quickly stepped in. "She's just tired," he said. But the way he avoided eye contact made my stomach tighten. Because I knew something wasn't right. My mother wasn't confused. She wasn't disoriented. She was completely calm, like she genuinely didn't know who I was. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I went back the next day. And this time, she recognized me immediately. "Daniel," she said, smiling. "Why didn't you call before coming over?" It was like nothing had happened. I tried to bring it up, but she just laughed. "Oh, I must have been distracted." My father changed the subject quickly, and somehow, the whole situation was brushed aside. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was being hidden from me. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention. And that's when I noticed the small things. My mother would pause in the middle of a sentence, like she forgot what she was saying. Sometimes she would look at me for a second too long, like she was trying to remember something. And once, she called me by a different name. "Michael," she said, then quickly corrected herself. "Sorry, Daniel." I didn't know anyone named Michael, but something about the way she said it made it feel important. So I asked my father about it. "Who's Michael?" He froze, just for a second, then shrugged. "No one. You probably misheard." But I knew I didn't. That night I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through old family photo albums, looking for anything unusual, anything that might explain what was happening. At first, everything looked normal. Pictures of birthdays, vacations, school events. But then I noticed something strange. There were gaps, entire years missing. From age 5 to 7, almost no photos of me. Which didn't make sense. My parents documented everything. Why would those years be missing? That's when I found it. A photo tucked loosely between 2 pages. It wasn't in any album slot, like someone had hidden it there. The photo showed my mother, my father, and 2 boys. One of them was me. The other, I had never seen before. He looked almost identical to me. Same hair, same face, same age. Standing right next to me, smiling. On the back of the photo, in my mother's handwriting, it said, "Daniel and Michael. Summer." My hands started shaking. Michael. The name my mother had accidentally said. I stared at the photo for a long time, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then I noticed something else. The photo had been torn, not ripped in half, but carefully trimmed, like someone had tried to remove one of the boys and then changed their mind. The next morning, I went back to my parents' house. This time I didn't knock. I walked straight in. My father was in the kitchen when he saw the photo in my hand. His face went pale. "What is this?" I asked. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he sat down slowly and said something I never expected. "You weren't supposed to find that." My heart started racing. "Who is Michael?" He looked at the photo, then at me, and finally said, "Your brother." The word echoed in my head. Brother. I had grown up as an only child. At least, that's what I had always believed. According to my father, Michael and I were twins. We were born minutes apart. For the first few years of our lives, we were inseparable. But when we were 6 years old, something happened. An accident. We were playing in the backyard, near the old wooden shed. My father had been fixing something inside. My mother was in the house, and somehow, the shed door locked. With Michael inside, by the time they realized what had happened, it was too late. My father's voice cracked as he told the story, but what he said next was even worse. My mother never recovered, not completely. Losing Michael broke something in her, and over time, her mind started doing something strange. She began forgetting he ever existed. Not gradually, not partially, completely. It was like her brain erased him to survive. The doctors called it a coping mechanism, a psychological defense. But my father made a decision that changed everything. Instead of correcting her, he went along with it. He removed every photo, every memory, every trace of Michael from the house, from our lives, even from me. "You were young," he said. "You started forgetting too." And instead of reminding me, he let it happen. He let me grow up believing I was an only child. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. "You erased my brother?" I said. "I tried to protect your mother," he replied. But I couldn't accept that. Because something didn't make sense. If Michael had been gone for years, why was my mother suddenly remembering him now? That's when my father said something that made everything worse. "She's not remembering him," he said quietly. "She's forgetting you." The room went silent. Apparently, my mother's mind was breaking down again. But this time, it wasn't erasing Michael. It was mixing the two of us together. That's why she sometimes didn't recognize me. Why she called me by the wrong name. Why she looked confused. In her mind, there were two versions of me, and she didn't know which one was real anymore. I stood there, holding the photo of a brother I never knew I had. A life that had been erased. A truth that had been hidden from me for decades. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. My entire childhood was incomplete. A week later, I moved my mother into a care facility. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but she needed help that I couldn't give her. On the day we left the house, she held my hand, and for a moment, she looked at me clearly, completely present. "Daniel," she said softly. Then she smiled. "And Michael." My chest tightened. Tears filled my eyes. because for the first time in my life, I realized I hadn't lost just a mother. I had lost a brother I never got to remember, and a truth that had been buried so deep, it almost disappeared forever.